Who wants one? Who's ordered one? Let me know in the comments below. As we know, Tesla dropped their refreshed Model 3 this week, an awesome, massive upgrade, huge implications for the company and for global order flow. Of course, you wouldn't know about the refreshed Model 3 if you just pay attention to the mainstream media, who'd much rather cover false stories about glass houses, lies being dredged up from over 2 years ago about some Elon mode that doesn't exist. It's almost as if the mainstream media has a certain agenda, and that agenda is Elon bad, Tesla bad. Bad news, and when I say bad news, I also often mean lies that aren't even true, if they're negative, get plenty of coverage, but massive upgrades to the world's best-selling electric vehicle. To date, over 2 million Model 3s have been sold. Don't get me wrong, Model Y will eventually overtake Model 3, but Model 3 was released a few years earlier. It had a bit of a head start. And absolute tumbleweeds in the mainstream media. Isn't that interesting? Of course, it's got absolutely nothing to do with the fact that the primary advertisers in the mainstream media, the companies who literally pay the bills and keep the mainstream media alive, happen to be automotive companies. And even if that were the case, it wouldn't affect their editorial biases and the way they cover certain companies that don't spend millions upon millions upon millions of dollars of advertising on those networks anyway, right? The good news is the mainstream media at this point in time is rather irrelevant. On screen now, this overview of Tesla's Model 3 refresh 2 days ago already 1.6 million views. How does that compare, let's say, with the primetime viewership of everybody's favorite finance channel, CNBS? We can see on screen now, during primetime, CNBS over the last 1 year, lucky to hit 200,000 primetime viewers. Average is probably hovering around 175,000. This test drive video of the new Model 3, posted 15 hours ago when I snapped this screenshot, already at 1 million views. Clearly, news travels. We're currently looking at Model 3 search interest globally over the last 7 days. Can anyone see on the chart where the new Model 3 information dropped? Spoiler alert here. Now, for those of you that don't know the way that Google Trends works, it's relative search interest. So for example, over this period, the figure of 100 is the maximum amount of search interest. This is all relative. For example, prior to the refreshed Model 3, the relative search interest peaked at a number 24. That means at its peak, just after the news dropped, there was about 4 times as much global search interest for Model 3 as there was prior to the refresh being announced. However, a couple of days later, we're still hovering around a 37, which is still 54% higher than the peak search interest was prior to the refresh announcement. In other words, there is a lot of buzz right now about Model 3. Keep in mind, this thing isn't available in most parts of the world yet, just a few select countries. If we drill down to one of these regions in particular, where the vehicle is actually available to order now, let's say Australia, same search period, the typical average search interest here probably hovering a little bit under 25% after the announcement though. And as I record this, more than twice the amount of search interest at 53. Just between you and I think Tesla is currently receiving a metric fuck ton of orders for this refreshed Model 3. But please don't tell that to the supposed experts who I have just reacted to on an exclusive ex-subscriber only video. The most painful video I've ever recorded, and I'm getting close to 2,000 of them. Clocks in at over 20 minutes of pure pain and torture. With such gems as every single Tesla sold includes at least $20,000 of subsidies. What the fuck? The electric vehicle market is at a steady state and will stop growing now. Oh, and also costs aren't declining. If you really want to see one of the most embarrassing things you'll ever see, supposed experts making morons of themselves, subscribe over on X, check out the latest exclusive video. Fair warning though, it will probably hurt your brain. Here's a bit of a hint as to what you might be in for. Some replies to this latest video. Lol, what a way to start my day. That was hilarious. Great way to wake up. Fucking hilarious. That was hilarious. Thanks for suffering for us. Amazing commentary as always. The fuck did these people come from? A mental institution? Thanks for taking one for the team. So check the link in the pinned comment to subscribe over on X. Now over to the mainstream finance media to see how they react to Tesla's refreshed Model 3. Or don't.
All right, let's switch to automakers. Tesla announced more price cuts today. Shares under pressure, down about 1.6%. Tell us what's getting cut.
Yeah, more price cuts coming in the U.S. This focused on the Model S and Model X. For the Model S dual motor vehicle, that's going to be down about 16.4%. Price is just under $75,000. The Plaid version, just under $90,000. Price is down about 17%. If we look at the Model X, the dual is going to price is being reduced by just under 19%. Price will be just under 80,000, and the Plaid version, that price is going to be reduced by just over 17%, coming in just under 90,000. These adjustments, of course, will keep the Model X eligible for those EV tax credits of about 7,500.
This is true. Interesting that they lead with the price cuts. Oh, by the way, speaking of price cuts, we've got some exclusive leaked footage here from Lucid. On screen now, leaked footage of Lucid management meeting after Tesla Model 3 refresh and SNX price cuts. Could someone explain this? I don't understand what this person meant about this. And just for the record, these are some serious price cuts. The Model X now, the most expensive Tesla vehicle, is now eligible for the EV tax incentive, $7,500 off. No other company has the ability to do this because no one's making any money selling these things. They're losing insane amounts, whereas Tesla's printing insane amounts. Check this out. At the start of the year, the Model S was available for $104,990. It's now $74,990, making it eligible for the credit. The Model X began the year at $120,990, now at $79,990, just sneaking in as an eligible SUV under the $80,000 cutoff. And there is method to Tesla's madness. 1, focus on volume. 2, and more important than this, is the relative value offered by each vehicle in the lineup. The entry-level Model 3 is now approximately $40,000, roughly half the price of the Model S. This not only makes the Model S an extremely good deal, but the Model 3 just absurdly good value. Comparable numbers for the Model X versus the Model Y. Remember, Tesla does not exist in a bubble. They are dictating terms of pricing in the automotive industry. And sticker price is one thing. Profitably producing and still being able to sell vehicles at a reasonable price is a whole other thing. And as we know, outside of China, no one is making any money selling electric vehicles. They're all losing tens of thousands of dollars per vehicle sold, except Tesla. Oh, that's what this leaked footage meant. I get it now. Oh, geez, I'm sorry, I'm a little bit slow.
The company is also lowering their subscription price for their self-driving car software to $12,000, $15,000. And if you've been following Tesla at all over the past year, these are not the first price cuts we've seen. In mid-August, they cut prices in China. They moved Model S and Model X down by 6.7 and 6.9% respectively. The Model Y and Model 3, they also dropped in the same week by about 4.5%. We've seen them offer insurance subsidies on some of these new Model 3 vehicles. So they're continuing to cut prices. We have investors certainly concerned about the margin part of it, but we've also seen some pretty decent sales numbers come out of it as well.
Yet in China, Tesla actually unveiled a revamped Model 3. So
there we go. Better late than never. The refreshed Model 3 finally gets mentioned.
it could take some time before we see that here in the US, but that actually comes with a higher price tag, right? So really trying to go head to head with some of the competition with the revamp, but not a price cut there.
And just for the record, there is currently a glitch in the matrix with Tesla's refreshed Model 3. I posted about this exclusively on Patreon today. You are on Patreon, right? No? Oh, click the link in the pinned comment to join. Then you won't miss out on these exclusive videos. I kid you not. In Australia today, it is literally cheaper to order the new Tesla Model 3, the refreshed version of the Model 3 that is better, more range, quieter, sleeker design, more aerodynamic, more efficient, has a display in the rear, temperature controlled seats. I could keep going on. It's better on literally everything, and it's cheaper to order that than it is to order the Model 3, the current version of the Model 3 today in the United States. Really, go do the currency conversion right now. I ain't kidding you. Think about that for a moment. The new Model 3 in Australia is cheaper than the current Model 3 is in the US. And guess what? There's extra costs to get a vehicle to Australia. Shipping, import duties. This is insane. Now, how is this possible? Well, 1, Shanghai's lower labor costs, but more important than that, Tesla has replaced about 50% of the parts in this vehicle. They've deleted a ton of complexity. My best guess is it's at least as cheap, if not cheaper, for Tesla to produce this new Model 3 that's way better than the existing Model 3. Better and cheaper. Of course, I am speculating, but I mean, you can go order the refreshed Model 3 right now in Australia for less than the current Model 3. Just saying. And this is a trick I think many in the finance media are completely missing. Bro, you know what's going to happen to Model 3 orders now that this new thing's dropped, right? The refreshed Model 3 orders are going to go through the fucking roof. And this thing will be at least as profitable as the existing Model 3, but there'll be a surge in overall volume, meaning more revenue and more profits for Tesla. Oh, and more vehicles on roads collecting data for the whole autonomy thing, which is not a big deal anyway, so you shouldn't ignore autonomy because Tesla is just a car company.
That's right. The new version, the price is up by about 12%, coming in at $36,000. This new model of the the Model 3, it's expected to boost sales in that market, and they're hoping for it to, I'm certain that they're hoping for it to spread to other areas as well. This new overhaul is going to include a longer range, higher price, of course, but they expect it's going to go about 380 miles on one charge. That's up about 30 miles from their older version. So certainly some increase in mileage there and an increased price to come along with it. It's going to be interesting to see how that new model plays in China and whether or not we're going to see that come here and other places.
Spoiler alert, it will. In case you haven't figured it out, here's what's going on right now. Shanghai is the first factory to have had the upgrades to produce a new Model 3. Therefore, the countries that Shanghai delivers vehicles to, like Australia, are able to order the vehicle now for delivery soon. Upgrades are currently or will soon take place at Fremont as well. And then guess what? New refresh Model 3 will also be available to order in the United States, but there's going to be a bit of a lag. Usually the other way around, countries like Australia get fucked and have to wait a long time, but conveniently, because Australia and some of the other regions that you're now able to order, like New Zealand, receive vehicles from Shanghai, which is, of course, Tesla's main export hub, for once, we get first dibs. But make no mistake, won't be too long before the refresh Model 3 is available to order in the United States as well. Again, should go without saying, but a lot of people are going to not realise there will be a refresh Model Y in the pipeline as well. Ain't going to happen tomorrow, but stay tuned. There's no way Tesla will continue to sell the Model Y as is indefinitely when there's now a refresh Model 3 with a rear display and a bunch of improvements that aren't yet available in the Model Y. Like I said, it'll take time, but it will happen. Now, I have to say, guys, I really have been scraping the bottom of the barrel trying to find all the media coverage, all of it, regarding this refresh Model 3. Been a couple of days now. It's big news, especially for Tesla investors. So here's the rest of what I was able to find.
Tesla is such a big mover and does have such an outsized impact on the market and is certainly still seen as the leader in EVs. Your thoughts on the dynamic pricing that we see this company on a near daily or at least weekly basis employing?
Well, I think what you're seeing with the latest moves, again, it's a situation where they're ramping up production and they obviously have a demand issue, and therefore they're reducing prices here in the U.S. I mean, they were very strategic in the S and the X price reductions, where now they're going to be eligible for some of the federal incentives. So clearly they have a demand issue as we go from kind of early adopters to mass adopters of electric vehicles in the U.S., and you're seeing their pricing reflect that. And I think that's what was reflected in their stock price today.
Let's be clear here. There is no demand issue. There is an affordability issue. Very different things. If you want a Tesla and you can't afford a Tesla, you want the Tesla, aka there is demand, but the obstacle is affordability. You know, Tesla told us that they were going to alleviate this affordability issue over time. It's in the master plan. Make the vehicles more affordable over time so more people can buy them. It is an important distinction.
If I expand this out more broadly to pricing, particularly here in the U.S., it almost feels like the auto industry is going through something kind of similar to the housing industry. It's a sector that tends to be more interest rate sensitive because people are taking out loans against new and used cars. You've had these supply demand imbalances with supply not there in recent years in the pandemic, and it seems to be holding up. Yes, prices are down if we look at Manheim year on year, but still so elevated versus just a couple of years ago. Where do we go from here? And I guess, how does that factor in then to, let's just start there. Where do we go from here?
Well, I think overall, Morgan, what you're still seeing a lot of pent-up demand in the marketplace. I mean, with the supply chain issues over the last couple of years, inventories right now are still nowhere near where they're usually are at this point in time of the year, although they're up 70% more or less from last year, and that's why you're seeing some of the automakers increase incentives. But I think, to your point, when you look at what's happened with pricing, I mean, the average new car loan is over $760, which is up about 30 to 35% versus where it was back in 2020. And the same thing for used cars. So you have a situation in which affordability, literally, you have to make over $100,000 a year just to afford a new car. And what you're seeing in the marketplace and what you started to see in just this past couple of months, you're seeing prices start to come down. The average transaction prices are off their highs that you saw in December and September of last year. And I think you'll continue to see that. But it's all buttressed by a lot of pent-up demand that's still out there in the marketplace and will bleed off over time.
See, Mark actually gets it. He just talked about pent-up demand and affordability being the issue. I know this is all semantics now, but it is important. We shouldn't mistake a lack of demand for a lack of affordability. Where there is a genuine lack of demand and where we will see demand collapse to the point where you can't sell these things at any price is with internal combustion engine vehicles. There's going to come a point in time, a few years from now, where it doesn't matter what you price an ICE vehicle, most people won't want to buy one. That will be a real example of a demand issue, not an affordability issue.
Mark, zoom out for me here. Talk about the U.S. automakers. If I were an investor, I'd be afraid to buy the domestic automakers when EVs are the future. They take fewer people to make, but the United Auto Workers are pushing for a contract here that one might argue is going to create some structural challenges for the U.S.-based industry. What's the counter argument?
Great question and comment there. Got to give credit where it's due. First, recognizing that I'd be afraid to buy stock in a legacy automotive manufacturer because A, consumers want EVs and they're not really making EVs that anyone wants, and or if they are, they're not affordable and or profitable. And then there's the whole UAW trying to accelerate the demise of these already doomed companies. Covered this recently, we're not going to rehash it, but right now the United Auto Workers Union is punching more holes in the hull of the Titanic as a negotiating tactic.
Well, first off, again, when you look at this transition to EVs and you look at the average age of what they call the vehicle park or the population of vehicles here in the U.S., it's over 12 and a half years old. So that will get turned over time. Vehicles are getting older. They need to be replaced. To your point, John, when you think about the UAW contract coming up, labor represents plus or minus around 10% of the cost of a vehicle. That being said, these negotiations are pretty pivotal because when you look at the all-in labor costs for, let's call it the Detroit 3, they're about $65 an hour versus the import non-union companies, which are about $55 an hour versus Tesla, which is about $45 an hour. So when you look at what the UAW has been asking for, which is over a 40% increase over the life of the contract, and when you add up some of the other things and benefits that they've come in with their opening position, I mean, you're looking at widening that disparity, significantly. And the automakers cannot afford them.
Can they get half of what they want, and it still pencil out?
It'll still pencil out because when you think about it, John, the Detroit 3 sell a lot more large SUVs and full-size pickups than some of their import competitors. And those have quite nice profit margins on them.
For now, remember what happens when ICE vehicle sales collapse, economies of scales reverse, those big healthy profit margins shrink to really small profit margins and then become losses, and then why the fuck are you still making and selling loss-making vehicles?
But at the end of the day, as this transition to EVs happens, I mean, let's face it, EVs right now, with the exception of Tesla, nobody's making money. And as the automakers, the legacy automakers ramp up, they're going to have to work down the piece costs to get those EVs to an acceptable margin. So you could argue for a period of time, there's going to be a restructuring of their margins. And that's why every penny counts in building a car. And that's why I think the automakers are going to be quite strong in pushing back on some of these demands from the UAW in their contract negotiations.
He ain't wrong. And the third and only other piece of coverage I've managed to find in the last couple of days regarding Tesla's refreshed Model 3, which amazingly is actually focused on the refreshed Model 3, not just throwing it in there after price cuts and margins and this, that, and the other.
That refreshed Model 3, we start there, but that's only in China and I think Europe. Not yet here in the US.
Yeah, and what was funny was last night I kept refreshing the Tesla, webpage to see if it was in the US. But no, it's just China and Europe, which makes sense. They retooled the China factory first.
Okay, we've been waiting on that one. I think more of a surprise potentially was the continuing downward price of Model S and X, the most expensive of Tesla's offering. What do we know about that?
I don't know if Ed's just making conversation here, suggesting it's surprising to see a continual downward trend in the price of... It's in their master plan, Ed. What will be surprising is if their prices don't keep trending down over time. And by the way, on this note, the refreshed Model 3 now, today, available for order in some regions in the world, performance-wise, is not that far off the original Model S top-tier version. Think about this. A fraction of the price, maybe a third as much, maybe even less than that, than the original Model S cost, which was released about a decade ago. So think about this. The cost for Tesla to produce an extremely compelling, high-performance electric vehicle is about 1/3 today versus what it was a decade ago. The cost has fallen by about 2/3 in the span of a decade. Of course, that's really surprising because it's not like it was in their master... Oh, wait, no, it was in the master... Oh, okay, yeah. Moving on.
So the S and X are really like a tiny share of Tesla's overall sales, but by slashing the prices, they now qualify for the $7,500 tax credit under the Inflation Reduction Act.
In this country.
In the United States. So this is an all-out push by Elon to chase volume, which he forecast... he telecast to everyone that that's what he was going to do.
Yeah, we'll remind our audience. I think the line from Elon Musk has always been that they're willing to sacrifice profit to protect growth. Just explain that to us.
Yeah, so they are willing to sacrifice profit margins or gross margins to maintain their market share. And it's really put the other automakers sort of on the back heel because how do you compete with Tesla on price now?
How do you compete with Tesla on price? Spoiler alert, you don't. It's kind of the point. By the way, I'm impressed. This is a good question to ask, and it's an important answer to know. Wait, why is this leaked footage of the Lucid management meeting after the Tesla Model 3 refresh and S and X price cuts on screen again?
I think you and I quickly reflect on the kind of big breaking news of this week that we worked on together, that is federal prosecutors are looking into this procurement order we reported a year ago. The subpoenas have been issued. This is the latest twist and turn, but it centers around Omid Afshar. Just explain who Omid Afshar is and why we're talking about him.
So Omid is one of Elon's top lieutenants, and he's an interesting character in that he seems to work at all of Elon's companies. He appears to be working at X. He worked at Tesla for a long time. He's really kind of the architect of Gigafactory Texas. He also, at one point, had a VP role at SpaceX. And even though he's at the center of this probe, because he apparently ordered people at Tesla to order this special glass for a house that Elon was thinking of building, he is still employed, and where this federal probe is headed is a big question.
They had to do it, didn't they? Got to throw some FUD in there. Now, for those who don't know, I covered this recently on Patreon, exposing the brazen corruption from the Biden administration, the weaponization of the Department of Justice to go after Elon Musk to damage his reputation, leading into the 2024 US presidential election. Why? Because those who seek to control the one true narrative, now that Elon owns Twitter and is allowing people to freely share their thoughts, opinions, and ideas, have lost control of their ability to control the one true narrative. And they don't like it. You want to watch that expose? Click the link in the pinned comment to join Patreon. So in summary, I can't say I'm surprised to see the lack of coverage of the Model 3 refresh. I mean, this is all I could find over a couple of days, just a couple of mentions here and there, a few seconds in the mainstream media. But it is truly a massive moment for Tesla. If I didn't know any better, I think the mainstream media had an agenda that wasn't accurately portraying reality, even-handedly, but themselves controlling the one true narrative. Make no mistake, the refreshed Model 3 is a big f***ing deal, whether or not you hear a lot about it in the mainstream media. Then again, as we saw with the CNBS viewership data, no one really watches the mainstream media anyway. Athletic Greens AG1 has given me a massive, meaningful boost in energy, allowing me to do a lot more every day, including using my brain more and using my body more. I highly recommend you guys and girls check it out. Athletic Greens AG1 is an excellent way to fill in nutritional gaps. It's got 75 high-quality vitamins, minerals, and whole food source nutrients, plus prebiotics and probiotics and digestive enzymes and adaptogens to help you deal with stress. Plus, if you click the link in the pinned comment or head to drinkag1.com/SMR, you can get yourself a 1-year free supply of vitamin D3 and K2. But don't take my word for it. Here's what some of you guys and girls have to say. AG1 has changed my life. I was, as you described, treating myself like a circus, ate like trash, rarely exercised, used alcohol as a stress crutch, cannabis also. AG1 is what gave me the kick in the ass, got me back to the gym, motivated me to do more for myself, family, my business, etc. Keep doing what you do. Now, I know there's some skeptics, the same kind of people who think Elon Musk is a fraud, reading this going, what do you thought? There's no way that's possible, bro. It must be a placebo effect. Believe it or not, this is a recurring theme. If you give your body everything it needs to feel and perform its best, including having a lot more energy, you'll need ways to use that energy. For me personally, that includes more exercise, moving my body more social activity, and more cognitively demanding tasks, including producing a ton of exclusive content over on Twitter and on Patreon, plus my daily YouTube uploads. The proof's in the pudding. On to another testimonial from a viewer of this channel. SMR, you asked me to provide feedback on AG1. Here it is. It has helped with mental acuity, stamina, and intestinal waste management. Can't read between the lines. It certainly helps with regularity and digestion. That's what the digestive enzymes are for. It has also dramatically reduced my cravings for sugar. You guys need to stop eating sugar. It's fucking poison. I'm 50, 5'9", and overweight, aka a fat motherfucker. I think that's a technical term for overweight, isn't it? Is it fat motherfucker or obese? I can't remember. I average 100 hours a week in the West Texas oil fields as a safety supervisor. Jesus Christ, dude. No wonder you're struggling to keep your weight under control. 100 hours a week. Brutal. It has helped me lose weight. It is not an appetite suppressant. It can help fat people suppress cravings, and motivation to be healthier is critical for changing your diet. Love you, brother. Again, this is a great point and something people really don't seem to grasp. If you have more energy, everything becomes easier. It's like turning on easy mode for life. A few years ago, before I was taking AG1, my health was trash. I was struggling to get through the day, had afternoon fatigue. The last thing I wanted to do was either use my brain or move my body. Didn't have the energy. Now, my biggest struggle every day is figuring out ways to use that energy. I'm exercising way more, doing a lot more with my friends and family, and of course, my work output has increased substantially. And you can fact check me. Check out the average length of my videos I was posting to YouTube 3 years ago. Need I say more? And one final testimonial. Love this one. Okay, here's the deal for me with this AG1 shit. I'm 41 years old and not the type to eat, drink, smoke, or sleep healthy, so I was skeptical. That being said, here's what I experienced. Day 1, meh. Day 2, afternoon fatigue was about 45 minutes late. Day 3, 0 afternoon fatigue. Day 4, 0 afternoon fatigue plus extra energy. Day 5, again, 0 afternoon fatigue plus energy. Wondering, what the fuck, really? See, this is the thing, right? The results for many people are just almost too good to be true. This is the same experience I had. My afternoon fatigue just vanished out of nowhere. I'm like, wait, what the fuck? Why am I not tired in the afternoons anymore? Surely, it's not that AG1 shit, is it? Turns out it was. Day 6 and 7, same thing. Day 8, same thing. Plus, I had the want to get things done around the house that I normally would slack off and not get done. Again, the point, extra energy, you'll need to use it, you'll find ways to use it. Day 9, 10, and 11, and today is day 12. I fucking love it. So however you managed to get me to buy it, I'm so glad you did. Thank you so much, SMR. It really changed me so far. Guys, this shit really works. Just try it. By the way, this is the reason I continue to relentlessly promote AG1. A lot of people get real fucking mad in the comments. Oh my God, snake oil salmon sold out. Oh my God, he's a scammer. This is fraud. But constantly, I'm pretty sure everyone making these comments is also currently short Tesla stock. I'm not particularly concerned about people having a negative perception, those folks suffering from small brain syndrome, still living in my bum's basement syndrome, etc., writing mean comments, claiming AG1's a scam or it doesn't work. I mean, bro, when I get feedback like this is what keeps me going. And remember, there is a 90-day money-back guarantee. There's nothing to lose here. Just try this stuff for a month, and if you don't get these results, get your money back. See, it's a literal no-brainer. It's an IQ test at this point in time. Testimonial after testimonial after testimonial like this. Get your money back if it doesn't work. Just try it for a month, and if it doesn't work, get your money back. Today's the day. It's finally time. Be like this guy who was a massive skeptic, but finally, after 1,000 promotions in a row, caved in, tried AG1, and has results like this. Head to drinkag1.com/SMR or click the link at the pinned comment, and please, let me know how you're feeling in a few weeks' time. Now, if you'll excuse me, time to put my extra energy to good use. I'll be recording some more exclusive content for Patreon and my Twitter subscribers. So click the links in the pinned comment. See you over on Twitter and or Patreon. And don't forget to grab your AG1. Love ya.